The death toll continues to mount in Ireland today, the 7th straight day that Catholic violence has been directed against Protestants in Ulster. For more on the Catholic uprising and its impact, here's Marie Zamora in Ulster.
These people may not look like the enemy, but they are. By morning they may be dead. They're Protestants, the last of an English family named Gibson. 15 years ago, King Charles offered farmland and a new home to those willing to immigrate to Ireland. The Gibsons were among the thousands who eagerly accepted. They received land vacated by Irish Catholics weary of English persecution. The Protestants had a good life here until late last week. That's when Mrs. Gibson's husband was killed in the Catholic uprising.
They shot him on his way home for dinner. They leaped out of rubbish piles from behind doors, and they just shoot or knife any Protestant they find. We've been hiding in this place for 3 days now, with just these clothes on our backs and nothing to eat.
Many Catholics feel that King Charles is responsible for this latest violence because he abandoned a policy which gave Catholics certain rights in exchange for money and soldiers. Catholics are roaming the streets with guns and clubs, killing English officials and every other Protestant who falls into their hands. Meanwhile, Protestants are actively organizing bands of militia in an effort to retaliate. Marie Zamora for EBC News in Ireland.
Ishris Aluma, the Sultan of Kanem, captured the adjoining territory of Barnu today in a lightning-swift attack with horse and camel cavalry, backed up by a battalion of musketeers. Aluma, one of the most highly regarded of all African generals, said he intends to reorganize the Barnu court system to include appeals courts and a Barnuese Supreme Court with 12 Muslim judges. Tonight's Viewpoints looks at the growing public fear of witchcraft. Our guests are Judge Richard Holst, who has put 300 witches to death in Wurzburg, and Lady Margaret, who speaks for Queen Christina of Sweden, who has banned witch trials in her own country.
Witches are dangerous. They make blood pacts with the devil. They eat the flesh of babies. They bring on hailstorms and they cast the evil eye. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live."
You kill helpless old women, not witches.
They're the devil's tools. Just today, a man in Würzburg denounced his own wife as a witch. He heard her talking to Satan.
Charging witchcraft is a common way to get rid of an old wife.
These witches fly out of their houses at night, then they gather in the woods to worship the devil.
How can you prove that?
Many have confessed it.
After you tortured them on the rack.
So they're witches. We just make them admit it. Then we burn them.
It's you who does the devil's work.
Thank you. We'll be back in a moment.
Under house arrest in Rome, Galileo tells his story.
All through history, man has done his best to capture time. But time has slipped away. Till now, capture time with a new accurate metal clock. Stedrick and Mather, where time is of the essence.
Her name was Mumtaz Mahal, the wife of the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. When she died 19 years ago, the Shah ordered a mausoleum built for her in Agra. Over 20,000 masons, carpenters, and artists worked on the building, now called the Taj Mahal. Palace sources say that the Shah is ill, and they expect him to soon join Mumtaz Mahal in the second of the mausoleum's 2 burial vaults. Galileo Galilei, the Italian astronomer, was forced to recant his theory of the heavens today before a church inquisition in Rome. He is slowly going blind. Doctors say it is a natural consequence of observing the sun for long periods through a telescope. Yesterday, Marie Scherberg spoke with Galileo outside his guarded quarters in the Vatican.
You stand accused of attacking the ideas of Aristotle. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Since Aristotle was a brilliant philosopher, many scholars have fallen into the trap of believing everything he wrote. In fact, Aristotle has been proven wrong a number of times.
Aristotle was wrong?
You see, even you are shocked. Let me tell you, when I first looked at the sun through my telescope, I was amazed. Aristotle said it was perfect, but I saw splotches and jagged edges. This discovery and many other things that I saw through my telescope proved that Copernicus was right and Aristotle and Ptolemy were wrong.
What will you do when you return to Florence?
I shall write to all of the students I know and to tell them to go on seeking answers until they know the truth. Not assume they know it because Aristotle says so. It is time we stopped believing everything we read and start testing those ideas against the real world.
Thank you for being so candid. Marie Scherberg with Galileo Galilei for EBC News.
The so-called American princess, Pocahontas, died today of smallpox in Gravesend, England. The 23-year-old Pocahontas was an immediate sensation in English society when introduced by her husband, John Rolfe, to advertise the London Trading Company of Virginia. She was a Powhatan Indian from the Virginia colony who, it is said, saved the life of Jamestown leader Captain John Smith. Later, she converted to Christianity and took the name Rebecca. England's great playwright, William Shakespeare, died today at age 52. Shakespeare was a titan of stage, drama, and comedy, author of the plays Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, The Merchant of Venice, and many more. He was a favorite of the late Queen Elizabeth. And that's the way it was, October 23rd, 1642. I'm Robert Fairfield. Thank you for joining us, and good night.
Major funding for this program was made